Hey everybody, how's it going? Christian from Treasure Town here, and today we're going to be talking about the top 10 quarter errors worth over $1,000. So I'm really excited for this video. I'm doing a series for most of the denominations talking about just some of the incredible mint errors that are out there where there was a crazy mishap at the mint. They're minting billions of coins, and even if it's a tiny percentage, some pretty crazy stuff can happen, and often these coins are just worth a lot of money. It's undercovered in terms of, I haven't done a huge amount of videos on these sorts of coins, but I think that they're so interesting, and it's a great way to highlight a very kind of unique part of coin collecting in an interesting way. So it has to be a quarter denomination coin. It has to have sold for over $1,000 at auction, and I have to deem it really cool. So I tried to get a variety of different ways that the mint made some errors, but we'll start with number 10 and make our way to number 1, which is quite a valuable coin, kind of for some inspiration, some cool collecting knowledge, and maybe you can find one of these yourself, but this is obviously a lot tougher to find, but you never know. Let's get into it. And here we've got the first of these 10 errors, but I just think that a cool variety is what I was really looking for, and this is certainly a standout because there are a lot of double struck coins, and I think that that is a really cool type of coin, but this one exhibits 3 different strikes, none of which is even close to have being struck prominently on the planchet. One of these all the way to the 7 o'clock, you can see it, with the second kind of just barely being, and it looks like it was almost struck over the other one, which is kind of interesting, barely on the kind of 11 o'clock of the planchet, but it sold only for 1,140, which is a lot less than some of the other ones in this presentation, and a lot less than some of the errors that I left out, but I just thought that the triple struck nature of it was super special. The next one is an undated Washington quarter. So normally I like to do ones with dates, but in this case, I just found this error to be pretty special in its own right. It looks like a copper core planchet got fed into the dies, and it would have done so with a normal quarter planchet, but it stuck to the reverse die. After the normal coin was ejected, this process repeated itself with this coin stuck in the reverse die many times, struck a bunch, the pressure cracks the main part of the planchet, and presumably eventually got ejected, but not before it was a significantly altered coin all the way to the diameter of a $50. So this one sold all the way back in 2007 for $4,600, but a super unique error unlike any I've ever seen. There's also this experimental planchet, Georgia quarter. There were a fair amount of these for, different states, including New Jersey, Connecticut. But this Georgia one was one of the highest sellers. It was PCGS Mint State 67, really well-preserved coin for $7,200. And it weighs less than a Sacagawea planchet. So it was not struck on a Sacagawea. Instead was its own creation, and this was the first year that they were doing these statehood quarters, so presumably they were just testing out different alloys, how they'd strike these coins, and they ended up settling with something very similar to the prior one, but tested these for a little bit. So just wanted to make you aware of those. There's also this one, just more of a classic, transitional variety, mint error. It's not a variety, it's a mint error. AU55, so not super well preserved, but it was struck on a 90% silver planchet. In 1965, they were still striking 1964 quarters that were silver. They had an excess of silver at the mint, but somehow one of the 65 obverse dies ended up striking some 64 intended planchets, and this was the result. So there's a lot of different transitional errors, this one being one of them. 2014, this sold for $8,800, so certainly a special one to own. There's also this one, which is a little less valuable, but I just think really cool. I'm a huge fan of state quarters, and I think I've talked about this one in the past, but when you have an error quarter, I think that that's great. When you have an error quarter from the state that you live in, I think that that makes it doubly special, and it doesn't matter if you collect ones that's not from the state you're in, so I think that there's only upside in collecting special state quarter coins. This is a very personal call. I like getting Connecticut error coins, and you'll see that in the rest of the presentation, but I decided to make this not only a Connecticut state quarter error display. This one sold for $3,360. It was a double straight clip, so presumably on the edge of one of the kind of feeders for the planchets in terms of the metal strips. That's how I understand most straight clips occur. But not only was it on a planchet, a clip planchet, it was well off center. So you have a very cool specific little error here. After that, we get to this mated pair. I'm not exactly sure how this was struck, but it almost looks like it could have been bonded coins that didn't get struck together, or there was something between the coins that we're not seeing anymore. But right here you can see how it could have happened if there was one big strike that made a big impression on this reverse of the quarter, and then mostly on the top quarter with the part of the planchet it didn't hit on the back quarter. I also like how they have unique breaks as well as a very loose imprints of the strike that they missed. Normally the proofs are also held to a bit higher of a standard, so that's why the coins likely fetched 8,700 when they were together, and they just look like they have nice eye appeal. There's also this Flipover double strike, which I am still kind of coming to terms with in terms of how the error was made. I just think it's really significant. That's why it's one of our top coins for today. But it looks like there was an initial, almost an indent down here. You can see in the, below the eagle. And then there was another strike that happened with another planchet between this piece and the reverse die. And it totally flipped over. So often you get double struck coins, but the flip over double strike is a little bit cooler or better or more rare just because, the coin literally flipped over. So a really, really cool piece of mint error mishap history. Love how the lettering, I don't know if that's because of metal flows or just if it was if it's unconstrained, maybe the metal doesn't quite fall into place like it normally would as it expands outward. You see that enlarged 1981 numbers, the enlarged E pluribus unum, or the United States of America, excuse me. But this one sold for $7,200, so quite a lot of money. After that, of course, we have a high-ranking Connecticut quarter, a bonded pair that was triple struck. So struck multiple different planchets and bonded them together with the sheer force of the strike. And presumably, again, this sort of metal flow issue, and just I really like how the copper reading sort of bleeds in from the edge of these bonded coins into the design, and that copper core just kind of expands. A really, really nice error, and fun to see the charter oak sort of distorted there in the background, but a $3,120 find and a great coin. I really wonder where this was discovered, but either way, it was quite preserved, really, really nicely preserved, and mint state 66. Our number 2 coin is going to be this crazy Bicentennial quarter. It's from the S Mint, but it's not proof. It's struck on a 0.6, so less than a gram of weight washer. I have no idea how this happened. It's so much smaller than the quarter planchet, but it managed to escape the mint, and this is the result. It sold for $9,600 quite recently, and I think a lot of the time, you'll get a washer where it's like a cent struck it or something like that. This one seems to be tiny in terms of how much of the planchet, it hardly would have taken up any space being struck, and it was clearly a small washer. A lot of the washers basically are well over 0.6 of a gram. So this one was just a standout, and I'm excited for our last coin, which we're going to go to right now. And that brings us to our best or number 1 coin for today, Overstruck on an Amusement token. I mean, what? That just is crazy. This one sold for $15,900 in 2014. How this Amusement token got in there, I'm not super sure. I'm also not totally sure. We can see it looks like it says, "This is my lucky day." So I'm not sure exactly what amusement park this would have been struck for, but it seems to have perfectly absorbed the strike. It's well defined, very similar size planchet, and as a result, people paid up for it. But it's astonishing, because I strongly doubt that the Mint was striking for this amusement. Maybe it was just a Mint employee, a few minutes after the last shift was off, decided to give themselves a nice little bonus, or what happened. I have no idea, but it was worth bringing to your attention today. So I hope that you enjoyed, and I've got some similar videos coming up for the other denominations in the future. Thanks for watching the video. I'd encourage you to like, comment, and definitely subscribe to the channel and connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I also have a website, treasuretownYT.com, where you should go so that you can learn more about coins as well as what's happening on the channel, and possibly find a place to sell your coins and collectibles. I also want to talk about some of my other projects like coinmeltprice.com, which shows precious metals prices as well as the melt values of coins containing those precious metals, both US and world. I also have coinsmetalscards.com, which will develop into a full marketplace, as well as a news source for coins, metals, cards, as the name might suggest. And then treasuretowncoins.com, which long-term will be my coin dealing entity, separate from the channel. And lastly, whatsthegrade.com, which will be a stickering service for already certified collectibles, where you can get a approval or verification of the grade on the holder. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you on some of my other videos.